fun to deal with. Happy weekend. Saturday morning, ready to rock and roll. What's going on, guys? How's the week been so far? Let us know in the comments if you're coming in to watch this one live. We're going to be kickstarting this one in a couple of minutes, and I think it's going to be a pretty big episode. So let us know if you are indeed coming in live, and we're going to be starting this one very, very soon. Who we got here? Who's the first in? Who's the crew that's coming down? So got a few guys coming into the pod now. I love it. So off the back of before the rain hits, yeah, exactly, dude. I love that you guys come in and continue to get value from this podcast. I'm super, super pumped. Just as I check in and get tagged in the 6 a.m. booty squad from FCF Fitness in Yamina. How good. Look at the girls getting involved. So good. All right, so who we got in here? We got the main man, Tez. How are you, my dude? We got Chris here, my legend. Jill, good to see you in here, mate. Friday night, Jill. What a rocking Friday night. Hey, Chriso, how are you, mate? Good to see you in here, brother. Jay's just listened to Trav's podcast, catching up on your podcasts. Yeah, you're keeping me on my feet, Jade, because I know that you listen to these constantly, so I need to stay ahead, right? What do you got going on for the weekend, guys? Tell us what's happening your end, and we're going to get started on this podcast in just 1 minute. So what do you guys got going on for your weekend? I want to hear it in the comments. Good morning, Nico. How are you, my legend? Trav, what's going on, brother? I hope you guys are having a nice start to the weekend. Tell me the scoop, guys. What's going on? What's the plans? Training, eating well, meeting up with friends. What's the vibes you got going on? I want to hear it. I want to hear it in the comments. All right, so 30 seconds, guys, and we're going to slowly count this down. ISO. Oh, that sucks, Judge. That sucks, mate. I hope you're feeling okay. Training and to work. Got gym induction tomorrow. Nice work, Jill. That's really, really great, getting outside of your comfort zone. Good one. Actually having a few beers tonight for the first time. No doubt celebrating a Raiders win over the Cowboys, Chriso. Hopefully, mate, make sure that you're reining in those beers and they're burly big heads, brother. Recovering from CrossFit. I love it. All right, guys, we're going to get this one on the road. Let's do it. So this is going to be a fun episode. Comment along if you've got anything to add. I try to kind of display the comments as I'm going. And yep, if you've got something that you want to add to the conversation, by all means, get that in the comments and let's go hard. Kristen's in as well. I love it. Sucks. But you know what? Once you've had it, I reckon you're kind of in the clear. All right, let's do it, guys. On the count of 5, 4, 3, 2, and 1. Welcome back to the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets and unsustainable workout programs. Now, in today's episode, I want to give you 4 mindset shifts that for long-term health, and these are mindset shifts that I personally adopt. As an introduction to today, I hope you've had a great start to the weekend. And for me, this is our last day in this accommodation in Noosa. We've got 2 or 3 more days up here on the beautiful Sunshine Coast. What a place to be. I'm seriously like dropping hints left, right, and center with Cordia about moving here at least for 6 months of the year. This is just like, this place it's nice, it's sunny, it's not incredibly busy. You've got these long stretches of beach that are just like untamed and there's no one on them. The property prices up here are super expensive because I think people are starting to cotton onto it. So be back down in Sydney early on the 1st of April. So looking forward to a couple of catch-ups with you guys while we're down there. Guys, let's get into today's session. So one of the things that is fundamental to being a coach is that you should be able to create a mission out of something that you find really, really easy. probably simple is a better word than easy. Okay. So what I want to talk to you about here is a little bit of a share of my mindsets, because I really do think that for me, like, fitness and health is easy. It's so automatic. Now, that's not the case necessarily in all areas of my life. But the reason I got into coaching in the first place, coaching of fitness and health, was because for me, I just, like, honestly, I couldn't figure out what was so hard. Like, what is it that people struggle with? Now, that's not being critical. That was just how my position's always been. Now, I'm lucky enough to be born in a really good country with really good health system, to two parents that, were active and prioritized health and gave me a good early entrance. And so the unsaid part of this is that we're not all lucky enough to be born into that. But you see two types of coaches that exist in this industry. You see coaches who have had a ridiculously good personal transformation. Okay. They've gone from struggling with their health and just like not being able to get a grip on it, but then maybe they met a coach, or maybe they had an enlightening moment, or maybe they had a heart attack or got diabetes. And from that moment, that was the catalyst to them turning it all around. For me, I don't really ever have that story of where I've kind of gone, healthy, unhealthy to healthy. And I've never been like a guy that's kind of cruised around with an all year six pack or anything like that. But just being a healthy man has come fairly easy to me. Now, of course, it's been populated by time periods where, I've indulged in vices that aren't necessarily healthy, but for the most part, that didn't lead to massive self-sabotage. And so the reason I'm introducing this at the start is because I want to talk to you about just 4 mindsets that I have operated with, and at least more recently formulated into some sort of a structure. Because if I can just get you to get what's in my mind into your mind, then it's really going to take a little bit of pressure off your own personal journey. I really see coaching as a transference of knowledge and beliefs. Knowledge, because you need the tools, and the only difference between someone that is healthy and someone that is maybe not so healthy yet is that they just don't have the tools yet. And so if we can give you the tools, number one, and then secondly, give you the self-belief and the mindset, number two, then what will happen is you will incorporate these things into your life and you will become health. And really, that's the goal. I think a lot of people, they see themselves as, I'm a person that's not that healthy, but I do healthy things. And so when you exist in that, you're fractured, right? You're always who you actually are and what you're doing to try to not be who you are. And the truth is, if there's separation between your identity and the things that you're doing, like, do you think that the things that you're doing are going to last over the long term? Like, let me know in the comments, guys. I can tell you straight away, they're not going to last, because the pull of your identity and who you are and what your program is always going to be the thing that's going to come back. We call this the autopilot. It's the governing program that you operate by. And so what I want to try to do is maybe give you some mindset shifts. Now, just before I go into that, I do want to say that whilst I didn't have let's call it a fat to fit story, what I do definitely have is a stuck to free story. And to me, that is what gives me the confidence to be able to speak to you guys, both inside of BBA and outside of, because I know what it feels like to be stuck. And what I mean by stuck is stuck knowing that I had so much more to kind of do and offer and experience to the world, but not knowing how to untangle myself from my own personal mess to actually go and do it. And obviously over the course of the last 2 or 3 years particularly, I've started to be able to learn how to do that. And that involved getting a coach and getting out of my own fucking way. And so whilst I don't have the fat to fit story, so to speak, I definitely have the stuck to free story. And that really is the higher level story, because I think all of us are in some part wanting to get from here where we feel stuck to here where we feel free. And when you start to free yourself up in different areas of your health, your wealth, and relationships, that's when you start to feel abundant and start to realize you can do bloody anything in the world. So let's get stuck into the 4 mindsets that I want to talk to you about. So number one, the mindset number one is we need to lose this like pass fail mindset. Like for me, it's the number one thing that just keeps people never actually breaking through. It's like an all or nothing mindset. I did a community workshop the other day for our BBA members, and you might remember there that I said that everyone wants to think that fat loss particularly is a straight line, and it's like this tightrope that we're walking on, and we can feel the pressure of falling off. And what's going to happen if I fall off? Like, where am I going to? And so what we try to do is we try to be really, 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 really tight on this tightrope and don't put a foot wrong. Like, sometimes we just need logic to bust our belief. So step back from that belief about needing to be perfect and think about it. If you're a 40-year-old man or woman and you're planning on living to 100 like I am, are you going to be perfect for 60 years straight? Are you going to be perfect? And if the answer to that is, well, no, of course not, well, then what I'd ask is, if your plan is built on the foundations of being absolutely perfect, then it's a plan to fail. You've got to drop away from the black and white mentality of pass fail. See, what I think happens to a lot of people is they experience failure, which is an experience, okay? It's a little bit of feedback about maybe I did the wrong thing. So let's talk about maybe you went out and you indulged and you didn't really want to because you lost your self-awareness, and then you feel bad about that, right? And so what happens is that's a failure in your mind. But when you become the failure, in other words, you embody the failure, so you go from failing, which is an experience that's happening to you, to becoming a failure, then you're embodying, you're personalizing the failure and becoming the failure. And so what you do is then you say, well, I can't do anything in the world because I'm a failure. And that is just like a mindset which you've got to drop. Instead, what if you completely inverted the mindset and just turned it right up the other way? What if you adopted the idea that consistency is far more important than intensity? And number two, putting a 1 in the box as often as possible is better than a 0. And so to explain what I mean by this, you know, some of us have these 10 days, right? These days where we just like nail it, where we get our step count up, we smash our workouts, our eating's on point, we feel abundant, we feel loved, we feel good, and often that's a Saturday morning, and everything's going right. And at the end of the day, we think to ourselves, well, we feel good, right? And we've put a 10 in the box. However, it's just not feasible to put a 10 in the box every freaking day. And if your attempts to be perfect mean that you've got to put a 10 in the box every day, and if you don't put a 10 in the box, then you're a failure, like that dichotomy is just impossible to live with. You can't keep it up. I can tell you straight away, if you have that mentality, then you are not going to win the game of transformation over the long term. You need to pull back and just take the pressure off yourself. And when you fail, dust yourself up and get up again, right? And what will happen is consistently over time, you'll become more and more self-aware of the things that are leading you down a path that you don't want to go down. And you'll get better at self-correcting. And that is the goal of transformation, is to get you to learn to open your own jars so that you can do it for yourself and you're not reliant on other structures or other people. But at the start, you've got to avoid the pass-fail mentality. So number one, lose the pass-fail mindset. Number two, I've been thinking about this a lot recently, and I think that so many of us are so focused on what we can achieve in the next 5 to 10 weeks or even 5 to 10 months. And even for me, that doesn't make sense, because I see a lot of people that are on the horse and they're on their weight loss journey and they get fantastic results over the first 5 or 10 weeks, and they naturally drop away. And they drop away possibly because a number of reasons, like the pass-fail mindset. What if instead we just started to understand that these things are predictable? We're going to fall off. And instead we started to plan for a health retirement. This is never something that I've talked about before, largely because I only really thought about how to put this into a frame this morning. So everyone is out there, right? They're kind of, they're thinking about perhaps where they're going to be when they're 60 or 70, when they retire from the workforce. And what they do is they think about, look, am I going to have enough money to survive? And they know that perhaps they've got some access to some government pension. But for the most part, they want to make sure that they're going to have enough food, they're going to have enough shelter, and they're going to have enough safety. I'm interested whether any of people watching live is familiar with Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. The bottom two steps in the pillars of Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs are that you must fulfill your physiological needs and your safety needs before you can do anything above that. In other words, before you can start to work on improving your life or feeling better or getting more confident or helping more people or all these things that we would all love to do, first off, you need to have fulfilled your own personal needs for food and water and shelter, and you need to feel safe. These are the bottom of the pyramid. So why is it that people plan financially for their retirement, but they don't plan health-wise for their retirement? Well, I think it comes back down to what I just talked about then. It comes down to Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. Everyone knows that they need to have enough money and they need to have a roof over their head when they're 60 or 70 years old to feel good and safe. But they forget the higher levels, which include your health. And so what happens is we are all so geared around what we need to do in the next 5 to 10 weeks, sure, which is part of the process. But what about the long term? If it's predictable that you're going to get older and you're going to accumulate injuries and maybe diseases and those types of things that are associated with aging, why don't we plan for that now? Like, why don't we have a superannuation, so to speak, or a retirement fund, the equivalent of that now? Why are we only thinking about our health in terms of the next 5 to 10 weeks or even 6 months? Yet when it comes to our finances, we are planning years ahead and trying to put away for our kids. And it doesn't make any sense, because what happens is people get to retirement age and they have enough money to survive, but their health is fucked. They're so in bits and injured and immobile and overweight that they've got the ability to have a great retirement, but they don't have the ability to enjoy it. Their quality of life is shot because they can't do anything. So they've worked their entire life to create the opportunity financially to actually be comfortable, but then physically they lose the opportunity. Like, this to me seems just crazy. And it's the reason why, personally, my mindset is that I value health now in the moment. Do you? There's a question to ask. Do you value your health now in the moment? And assuming you're listening to this podcast, you probably do, because that's why you're on the podcast, because you value your health. But do you see what I see? So many people, it's kind of like, how long is it going to take me to get to my goal weight, Jace? possibly a year or two. A fucking year or two? Are you serious? You want me to do this for a year or two? No, I don't want you to do it for a year or two. I want you to do it for the rest of your life. The only way this is going to work is if you become health and the two become integrated. Does this make sense, guys? So mindset 2 is start prioritizing your health now. Mindset 3 is working by what we call inside the BBA as the deposit withdrawal mentality. So the way to think about this is to think about this in terms of your health in terms of a bank account. I don't think the goal, and we talked about this in mindset 1 of avoiding the black and white pass fail. I don't think the goal is to never do something that is unhealthy, so to speak. Like, I actually think that trying to be perfectly healthy is unhealthy because for me, it's about balance. So if you're never, ever indulging or doing anything that is out of the lines, well, then you might be really healthy physically, but where are you going to be when you're just 70 years old and looking back and just going, well, that was really sterile. I didn't really have a good life. Like, I didn't enjoy myself. And so what I think we need to do is adopt this deposit withdrawal mentality. So how do you build the balance of your bank account? You build the balance of your bank account by making sure that there's more money coming in, more cash coming in than going out. And it's really interesting that you have a bunch of people that make a lot of money, but they don't understand the fundamental principle of cash in, cash out, or cash flow. So they earn a lot more than perhaps you or I might earn, but they got nothing. And that's because it's out of balance. There's the inflows and the outflows haven't, and we know people like this. But then we also know people who are earning far less money, but spend it on things, what we'd call the right things, so to speak, and they have a budget in place, and overall, their savings goes up, despite the fact that they might not be earning that much at all. And the reason is because they understand cash flow, or as we call it inside Better Body Academy, the deposit withdrawal mentality. And your health is exactly the same way. So the way I think about this is we had one of our gents saying, here, Chris Lewis, actually having beers for the first time in a long time. Good. You should do that. But it has to be in balance. So the things that I would be thinking, that Chris would be thinking, being a long-term member, is he's going to have a few beers. He's going to make sure they're nice low-calorie beers, because why would you drink full-calorie beers when you can drink low-calorie beers and have the same amount of alcohol? That's one thing. The second thing is he'll be depositing this morning out doing a walk or a gym session. So he's putting in the yards before it. He probably won't have 15 beers. He'll have 3, 4, 5, 6. You see, there's a balance that's inherent when you operate by this mindset. You go from needing to go all in and compound and have all the beers and all the alcohol and all the shit food and all and never train again for the next 3 days because you're so tired, and all of a sudden you step back from that and you have balance in your approach. I've got Tez here saying, out for dinner last night, had a few reds, back in the gym now. This is the deposit withdrawal mindset. This is the allowance for you to have some indulgence as long as it's in the right proportion, as long as you're offsetting it. A lot of people underplay the importance of nutrition, and what they try to do is outrun their diet, and it never works. That their nutrition is so crappy, but they try to make up for it in just like running or walking or gym sessions. You will never outrun your nutrition. And if you're slowly accumulating weight, the reason is it's because of your nutrition, right? This is what most personal trainers who are untrained in nutrition don't understand. This is the reason why I don't believe that in-person personal training is the right way to go for most people, because it just focuses on the training proportion and says, okay, you need to eat better. Like, that's not how it works. We've got to get this all in balance. And if you understand the deposit withdrawal mentality, well, then guess what? You're going to be able to maintain your weight because it's in balance. We got one of the boys commenting, I found myself asking, do I really like it? Helps me most of the time. I think this is brilliant. We've got another guy saying, morning fasting before a few evening drinks. That's exactly right. It's in balance. So if you know that your calories are going to be heavier at night, or what I'd say are back-ended, well, then what you do is you plan for that in the morning and make sure that you just essentially shift your day to the end. So that's a really good example, guys coming in and commenting live. The third mindset is the deposit withdrawal mentality, and that's exactly how I think. I've now done 186 days of 10,000 steps. I do that because that's my $5 in the bank account every day. That's what that is. That's my $5 in the bank account. And you put that away and you put that away and you put that away, and guess what? You look in 186 days time and you look back and I just put $5 away every single day in a bank account. If that walk was actually $5, who's got 5 times 186? That's $800 odd. That's what happens when you're consistent. Let's get to the final mindset before we wrap this podcast up. Mindset 4 is, for me, the most important mindset. And that is that improved self-awareness is the start point for everything. And so the response to that might be, well, that's great, Jace, but how do I become more self-aware? Yeah. So the big theme here is that you cannot fix your problems with the same mindset that you created them. In other words, if you got overweight, or if you got into a dependence with drugs, or you weaseled away all your money on gambling, or whatever it is, it doesn't matter how you were stuck. You can't then stay in that frame, in that mindset, and then try to fix things, because it's that mindset that actually created it. So you need to have a shift in your consciousness. And what I see happening is that some people, and actually not some people, 95% of the world actually, we get up in the morning and we press play and our day just happens to us. Guys, we're nearly done with this podcast. Zero in on what I'm fucking saying here, right? How many of the things that you do on a daily basis are you choosing to do? Or are you carrying with consciousness into that behavior? Like, let's dumb this down a little bit. If you get up in the morning and you press play and your day just happens to you, are you choosing those behaviors? One of the most familiar things in the history of Better Body Academy was one of my good mates joined the academy, and he tried for years and years and years to solve his problems. He commuted from Central Coast to Sydney every day, and he worked hard, and he couldn't work out how to fix it. When I went through a kind of a habit pattern with him and just asked him, like, take me through what you're actually doing. Every single day for the 10 years or whatever it was that he was driving down there, he stopped at the petrol station at the end of the freeway and got a couple of pies and a Coke and filled up his esky from the petrol station. That might seem so obvious as being problematic for your calorie intake. It might seem so obvious. But for the person who is stuck in the moment, that is so close into the forest that they're looking around and they can't see the trees because they're so close into the forest, you can understand how this happens. And so the vast majority of people are going through their life not getting curious about why they're doing the things that they're doing. They're just doing them out of automation. The drink, it's out of automation, because what's happened is they've conditioned themselves to understand, as Travis put it in the comments, that When I feel pain or uncomfortableness, I know that alcohol can solve it. So it becomes a habit that whenever you feel discomfort, you drink alcohol to solve the problem. And once you've conditioned that program and pattern in over and over again, it happens automatically. And so let's get into this idea of self-awareness. What we need to be able to do is have someone come along or have something happen in our life that shocks us into being more self-aware and say, fuck, I'm doing this thing over and over and over and over and over again. I'm not actually choosing to do this thing. And guess what? This thing does not make me happy. I'm just doing this thing because it makes me feel good in the moment and numbs me from actually feeling the thing that I want to feel, that I don't want to feel this thing anymore. And so we adjust, it's like we are fumbling around in a dark room in the night. Okay, so imagine it, right? For those of you that are watching the replay, it's kind of hard for me to communicate this, but you're in this dark room and you're like padding around, like, why am I not going where I want to go in life? Like, what's happening here? Well, it's because you're walking around in a dark room. So what would happen if you turn the lights on? That turning the light on is the beautiful light of self-awareness that comes in and goes and illuminates the dark. And what you see when it's illuminated is all of your patterns, the things in the room that are stopping you from getting to where you want to go. You can't see them when it's dark. But when the room is lit up, all of a sudden you go, oh, no wonder I was fucking up that thing. No wonder I've got no money. No wonder I'm overweight. No wonder I feel depressed every Sunday morning. So what self-awareness allows you to do is to shine a light on the thing so that you can then ask yourself and get curious, do I want to continue this behavior anymore? Now, I'm gonna kind of, I think I've got a pretty entrenched audience here right now, so I'm gonna go a little bit deeper on this while I can. I always prefix this with saying I was never bad, but I was partial to a line of cocaine, right? For a year or two. Never bad, but in that moment or in that time period, I would wake up and I would go, okay, my nose is sore. I don't like this. This is not me. This is not me. Like, why am I doing this? And with self-awareness, I started to get curious. It's only when the self-awareness kicks in and you get curious and you ask yourself, why am I doing this thing that I don't like doing, I don't want to do, but I keep doing it? That doesn't make sense. And so now you've lit the curiosity. Now you've lit the curiosity. Why am I doing it? What am I actually chasing here? Is it that I love beers so much? Like, I just love beer. You don't love beer that much. You love the feeling of not feeling, or you love the feeling of, in the case of, let's talk about cocaine, you get conversational and you feel love with your friends. And then as you keep going down this tunnel of self-awareness, you go, what if I could get that exact same feeling from something that didn't destroy my brain? What if I could get that exact same feeling from something that actually made me feel good and was life-endorsing? And for me, the realization was, I can go to the beach with two of my friends, ironically the same two friends that I might indulge with, and go to the beach, have a coffee, have a morning swim, and feel fucking alive. And guess what? I got the same feeling. Only that one set me up for a weekend in bed. The other one set me up for feeling healthy and abundant. And then we'd go for a swim and we'd go for a beautiful big breakfast and maybe a walk in the sun and like everything that happens from there. This can only happen if you are able to shine the light on the way that you're currently doing things. You need to like clear the table off and say, this weekend, I'm just going to have a think about my shit. and I'm just going to pull back from it and just go, why do I do the things that I do? Why do I get up at 8 o'clock in the morning? Why do I set up multiple alarms and keep pressing snooze? Why do I eat the breakfast that I currently eat? Why are my steps 2,000 steps a day? Why do I hate training in the gym so much? Why do I look forward to the weekend so much? Why do I have this like dog eat dog relationship with my partner? Why do I feel this resentment to her? Like, why do I look in the mirror and not like myself? You know, they may be somewhat gloomy things to think about, but most people just put their head in the sand and ignore them. If you are able to shine the light on them, bring some self-awareness, then what's going to happen is you're going to realize you have a choice. In any moment, you have a choice. So I did go deep on that. I'm going to recap the 4 mindsets that I personally live by and employ. Lose the pass-fail mindset. Number 1, get rid of that mindset, right? You don't need to pass or fail. If you have a fail day or a fail hour or a fail week, who cares? Start the next week fresh again. Press that reset button. Number 2 is to plan for your health retirement in the same way that you would plan for your financial retirement. You got to prioritize your health. You can't, the older you get, the harder it's going to get. Number 3 is the deposit withdrawal mentality. That is just simply thinking to yourself, well, I don't have to be perfect. That's not the goal. But what I do need to do is have some sense of balance. And if I know that I'm going to take some withdrawals down the track here, then I'm going to put the work in now to offset those things. And that way you can have your cake and eat it too. And number 4, the final mindset that I went really deep on for a long period of time is that you can't fix the problems in your life with the same mindset that you created them. And what you need to do is clear your plate, step back, and just like get curious, self-analyze. Just think to yourself, why do I do those things? Just why do I do them? And if you can get curious and more often, you will break the pattern and slowly start to bring in new patterns. And I'm looking at all the people that are watching this live, and I know each of their individual stories and what phase they are in breaking those patterns down. And guys, what I just want to reassure you is that it takes time, okay? This is not something that is overnight, nor does it need to be overnight. As a final thing that I want to say to you guys is one of the big talks that we went through in the Ultimate Ownership System the other night, the workshop that we did inside BBA the other night, is that you just need to stay attached to the process, okay? You don't need to be perfect. If you fall off, you come back on, but keep resetting, keep plugging back into the process, because when you stay plugged into the process over the long term, right? Stop thinking about next week. Think about next year. Think about the next 10 years. And if you get away from the short-term thinking and think, I want to be a healthy guy or girl for the rest of my life, and I'm willing to kind of put the time into that now, that's when it starts to pay a reward. Guys, I'm going to love you and leave you there. Have a beautiful weekend. I'm Jay Stewart from the Better Body Academy podcast. This is the podcast that you come to when you're sick of the dumb diets, unsustainable workout programs. Guys, if you got value out of this podcast, please, literally right now, it's not that hard. Just go over to the Apple Podcast player and just scroll down to the bottom below episode 1 and press leave a review. I would appreciate it more than you ever know. I'll see you in the next episode.